In this illusionary realm, the sky was blood red, and the ground was a dark brown, seemingly soaked in fresh blood, emitting a strong and pungent scent of blood. The stench was so overwhelming that as soon as Wang Lin appeared here, he immediately felt a suffocating sensation weighing down on his chest, as if a massive stone was pressing against him, making it hard to breathe. Looking around, Wang Lin saw countless scattered corpses. The ground was littered with remains, few of which were intact. Most were severed limbs and broken torsos. Among the remains, there were still complete skulls, their eyes filled with the fear they had in life, and in their pupils, a blurred reflection of a figure frozen in the moment of death. This place, once a mortal imperial palace, should have been resplendent with golden splendor, but now it was tainted with blood, transformed into a palace of death. A deafening boom echoed from a distance, and a large cloud of dust and smoke scattered in all directions. Wang Lin saw a palace collapse in the distance, and amid the destruction, a man dressed in blood-red robes was holding an elderly man in imperial robes by the throat. His expression was cold, yet there was a hint of madness in the murderous intent in his eyes. "Your clan brought ruin to my family all those years ago," the man snarled. "Today, Xun'er will return the favor." With a single squeeze of his hand, there was a deafening explosion as the elderly man's body exploded, blood splattering everywhere, staining the blood-robed man and his face. At that moment, hundreds of long rainbow sword lights appeared at the farthest edge of the sky, as hundreds of ancient cultivators rode their swords, howling as they swiftly approached the palace. But as they arrived, the man suddenly looked up, and the red light in his eyes flickered. In the blink of an eye, a bolt of red lightning shot from his gaze, streaking across the sky and piercing through the bodies of the approaching cultivators. In an instant, the red lightning roared like thunder, and the hundreds of cultivators trembled, their bodies collapsing in an instant. "Extreme realm," Wang Lin muttered, glancing around at the blood-red man, a realization dawning in his eyes. This is just the first layer of the illusion, from the days of Xun'er Kingdom. Wang Lin lifted his foot, stepping onto the thick blood that had congealed on the ground, and began walking towards the man. Step by step, the blood stained the earth, and the bloodlust in the air carried the deep hatred of Xun'er, lingering thickly and refusing to dissipate. "If the heavens block me, I will destroy the heavens. If the immortals block me, I will slay the immortals." Xun'er's face was filled with murderous intent as he looked up at the collapsing cultivators above. The sky seemed to tremble with his overwhelming bloodlust. "I will make the rivers of this world run red with blood. I will bring karmic retribution to all beings who have wronged me." Xun'er's voice echoed through the heavens and the earth, betraying the madness in his heart. As Wang Lin approached, he saw Xun'er's blood-stained back, and for a moment, it was as though he saw himself from the days at the Teng family. That back was desolate, lonely. Even though his vengeance was satisfied, there was no joy, only sorrow and melancholy, mixed with a deep weariness and hatred towards the heavens, the earth, and all living beings. "Senior brother," Wang Lin spoke softly. The moment his words left his mouth, Xun'er suddenly turned around, his bloodshot eyes filled with rage. He fixed his gaze on Wang Lin, and under that intense stare, accompanied by the surrounding stench of blood and the overwhelming slaughter, anyone else would have likely trembled and backed away. But Wang Lin did not flinch. Xun'er's bloodlust was overwhelming, and Wang Lin's own murderous nature matched it. At their core, they were the same kind of people. The reason they could share such a deep bond, a resolve to die for each other, was precisely because of this shared nature. Xun'er's bloodthirsty eyes did not intimidate Wang Lin. In those eyes, Wang Lin did not just see killing intent. He saw pain, sorrow, longing, just like when he had avenged his own great grudge. "This is an illusion. It is real, and yet not real. But this is not our end, senior brother. Sit down. We will enter the second layer of the illusion." Wang Lin spoke gently as he walked toward Xun'er. Xun'er was silent. When Wang Lin reached his side, he slowly closed his eyes, but 2 lines of tears fell. The tears washed away the bloodstains on his face, turning the once clear tears into muddied streaks. They dropped onto the ground, merging with the blood. "Sit down, please." Wang Lin said softly, placing his hands on Qing Shui's shoulders. After a long pause, Qing Shui nodded bitterly and slowly sat down cross-legged. He exhaled deeply and opened his eyes. Wang Lin, this is only the first layer of the illusion? He asked. Yes, only the first, Wang Lin answered, sitting down cross-legged as well, locking eyes with Qing Shui. A very real illusion, Qing Shui murmured, glancing around before his gaze finally rested on a locust tree that had not been destroyed in the distant palace. The tree had stood for countless years, struggling to survive in a dry and withered state. As he looked at the tree, the killing intent in Qing Shui's eyes gradually faded, and he let out a light sigh. Let's enter the second layer of the illusion. Wang Lin formed a hand seal, and in an instant, his hands spread outwards. With a flick of his large sleeves, the entire world within the first layer of the illusory realm immediately twisted. A low, rumbling sound echoed as black mist began to rise from the bloodstains on the ground and from the countless severed limbs. In the end, all the beings within this first layer of the illusory realm were surrounded by black mist. This mist quickly gathered above Wang Lin and Qing Shui, forming a giant ghostly face. The ghostly face let out a silent roar and lunged towards them, aiming to devour them. At the moment of devouring, both Wang Lin and Qing Shui felt their minds shake violently, as if a giant vortex appeared, pulling their divine senses and souls completely out of their bodies and into the vortex, sending them back to the distant past, to an era long ago. At the beginning of the world, in a chaotic void, this was the core area of the cave mansion realm. It was the heart of the entire realm, where the gate to Immortal Ridge was located. At this moment, in this core area, within the true abode of the cave mansion, the path of heaven opened wide, swallowing Lien Daofei. The deafening roar echoed throughout the entire cave mansion realm. It was at this moment that Wang Lin transformed and emerged. This scene was identical to what he had seen in the environment of the Cloud Sea Rift with the seven-colored Taoist. As Lien Daofei's angry roars and howls reverberated, the path of heaven was gravely wounded, collapsing and dissipating during the separation. Meanwhile, the seven-colored Immortal Venerable, dressed in a seven-colored Taoist robe, appeared sorrowful. In an instant, his body shattered and disintegrated. His physical form was completely torn apart, and within his body, his essence and soul intertwined, turning into the three souls and seven spirits. As his body collapsed, they suddenly scattered in all directions. This time, unlike the previous time when he entered the seven-colored Taoist's illusory realm, this time Wang Lin was the one actively casting the illusion. He was the source of the magic, so everything he saw was much clearer than before. The first thing he saw was the seven spirits. The seven spirits were colored in the seven hues of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The seven-colored soul rapidly scattered, heading towards the cycle of reincarnation. One of these spirits was a red hue. This spirit represented killing and contained the astounding slaughter throughout the life of the seven-colored Immortal Venerable. Around the red soul, countless vengeful spirits swirled. These souls, all killed by the seven-colored Immortal Venerable, were now absorbed by the red soul, transforming into a dazzling red light that sped toward the distant starry sky. Within this red soul, Wang Lin felt Qing Shui's presence. As the red soul vanished into the starry sky and entered reincarnation, Wang Lin saw, within the soul, a blurry figure forming. It was Qing Shui. Another spirit was green, shining with a faint light. This soul contained the cultivation talent of the seven-colored Immortal Venerable. The fact that the seven-colored Immortal Venerable could attain such a high level of cultivation was due to his extraordinary talent, making him a true prodigy. At this moment, the green soul sped away, but once again, Wang Lin felt an aura he recognized deeply, one that made his heart race. His divine sense trembled as if he had caught his breath. Just as the green soul dissipated, seemingly about to enter reincarnation, Wang Lin saw a blurry figure within it. This figure was unmistakably Situ Nan. No wonder Situ Nan's talent is so extraordinary, and his cultivation is constantly changing. It turns out he is a soul born from the seven-colored Immortal Venerable's talent. Wang Lin murmured as he saw the third soul. This third soul was orange. The orange glow was soft, but carried a righteous aura. At this moment, as it flickered, it could make any unworthy soul tremble. This righteous aura was a manifestation of the seven-colored immortal venerable's lifelong conscience. This righteous soul, the third soul, was undoubtedly a symbol of righteous energy. It would protect someone or something that the seven-colored immortal venerable held dear, regardless of the cost. No temptation could sway it. As the soul dissipated into reincarnation, Wang Lin was shocked to see the blurry figure within the orange soul. It was Qinglin. Qinglin was the immortal emperor of the Rain Realm. For the Rain Realm, he had endured repeated temptations from the Palm Sovereign. Even when grievously injured and on the brink of death, he still guarded the Rain Realm. This was the righteousness of his soul. This was because he was the third soul. Then came the fourth soul. This fourth soul was yellow. Its radiance illuminated the starry sky, almost rivaling the three souls outside the seven spirits in brilliance. The yellow soul represented the seven-colored immortal venerable's opportunities and fate throughout his life. A person reborn from this soul would undoubtedly be someone with extraordinary luck, so much so that it could not be described. Such a person would possess the world's fortune and be favored by the heavens. Wherever they went, treasures would appear, and enemies would often die on their own. This soul, gathering the seven-colored fortune, dissolved as it entered reincarnation. In that moment, Wang Lin saw a blurry figure within, Greedy Wolf's faint form. The green light of this soul spread out, barely noticeable, dissipating weakly within the starry cycle of reincarnation. Yet, Wang Lin still saw it. In that fleeting moment of its disappearance, a vague figure appeared within it. Spirit Dispersion Sage, it's him, Wang Lin murmured, his mind shaking, as if all the accumulated emotions of these 2,000 years had exploded together. The sixth soul, this soul was blue. The blue light emanated two distinct sensations. One was as gentle as water, the other as cold as ice. This blue sixth soul was the manifestation of the lifelong emotions of the rainbow, immortal venerable. Despite having many consorts, his only Tao companion was none other than Fan Shanmeng. The emotions embedded in this soul reflected the complexity of the rainbow, immortal venerable's heart. He loved Fan Shanmeng, but he also hated her. In this intertwining of love and hate, the sixth soul became something different. This sixth soul was not a man, but a woman. The aura emanating from this woman made Wang Lin's heart thrum. He suddenly looked up and gazed intently, disbelief flashing in his eyes. He never imagined that even she was a manifestation of the rainbow, immortal venerable's soul. As the sixth soul dissipated, the blurry figure inside it appeared. This figure held both coldness and tenderness, the two emotions intertwined. Ultimately, the coldness overshadowed the tenderness, burying it deeply, leaving behind an aura of icy detachment. Mu Bingmei. Wang Lin's face went pale. He recognized the blurred figure. He could not believe that this was real. Mu Bingmei, this woman's life, or perhaps her repeated reincarnations, had always been like this, entangled in the duality of gentleness and coldness. Just like her relationship with Wang Lin, it was complex, endlessly complex. The seven souls separated, each becoming an independent entity. Though there was still some connection between them, it was faint, almost imperceptible. If the three souls did not merge, the seven souls would never dissipate. They would simply cycle through endless reincarnations like ordinary mortals. The seventh soul was purple. Purple, the color of madness, the most extreme color. This purple seventh soul bore the anger and madness of the rainbow immortal venerable before his collapse, along with a deep sense of unwillingness. He hated heaven, hated earth, and most of all, hated the woman he loved. Though his life might have been glorious, he was a tragic figure. Even when he collapsed, that anger and madness could not dissipate, merging into this seventh soul. This soul was the first to dissipate, and within it, there was a murky aura, permeated by the rage and madness of the rainbow immortal venerable. Wang Lin could not see clearly within it, and he could not tell who the person reincarnating from the seventh soul was. But he had an inkling, a vague feeling, that he had seen the person from the seventh soul's reincarnation before. The process of perceiving the individual soul origins of the seven souls appeared slow, but in reality, it took only an instant. As the seven souls dissipated, the shock in Wang Lin's heart was no less than when he had found the true third soul. The three souls, along with the collapse of the rainbow immortal venerable, burst forth after the seven souls scattered, rushing in three directions. One of the souls, as soon as it appeared, emitted a rainbow light, heading toward the outer realm after countless epochs. There, it transformed into the Rainbow Taoist, carrying the Rainbow Immortal Venerable's life skills. The second soul howled as it sped in the opposite direction, entering reincarnation. After numerous reincarnations, one day, it reincarnated into a common vicious beast within the Luotian star domain. Its memory slowly awakened. One day, after fully awakening, an elder severely wounded and on the brink of death fell from the sky onto the cultivation star it inhabited. This elder was none other than War Ghost. He had failed his profound tribulation, his body decaying, his primordial spirit shattered, on the verge of death. Amidst his painful smile, he saw a vicious beast with strange, glowing eyes pouncing on him. This was War Ghost's immortal fate. Wang Lin saw all of this. He even saw the third soul. This third soul flew the farthest. It howled and shot from the core of the cave mansion, heading straight for the edge of the starry sky. Wang Lin hesitated not for a moment. He immediately unleashed all his speed, charging after it with a thunderous roar. This was his second pursuit. This time, there was no Rainbow Taoist and no one to interfere. He was determined to uncover who this third soul really was. Wang Lin could feel it. The identity and whereabouts of the third soul were about to reveal themselves. The third soul howled as it passed through Zhao River and arrived at the Kungsu star domain. There, its speed gradually slowed, as though it was searching for the reincarnation resting place. Wang Lin followed closely behind, pushing his speed to its limits to barely keep up. He focused on the third soul, which had a murky aura with no shadow within it. Clearly, unlike the souls and other two spirits, before reincarnation, it could not manifest a form. The third soul howled as it lingered briefly outside a desolate cultivation star. But for some unknown reason, it did not choose to stay there, and instead flashed past. No one knows how much time passed, but Wang Lin followed behind. He saw the third soul, after wandering around Kungsu, suddenly speed up. With a loud roar, it left Kungsu and headed towards the Sea of Clouds. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed as he estimated the time, vaguely guessing that the Seven Colors Taoist must not have seen the third soul head to the Sea of Clouds back then. Instead, during the third soul's wandering in Kungsu, it had been interrupted by him, awakening it. But the more Wang Lin thought about it, the more an icy sensation emerged in his heart, a chill coming from a sudden thought. The third soul, after wandering around Kungsu, is it searching for something? Or perhaps, it subconsciously sensed that the Seven Colors Taoist, after countless years, would find it this way, and thus it delays time by wandering in Kungsu. Wang Lin shook his head, suppressing this thought. He himself felt this idea was too absurd. The third soul howled as it headed to the Sea of Clouds. On a wild star there, it flashed and vanished. Wang Lin followed and arrived here, his gaze sharp, fixed on the cultivation star. As the years passed, in one particular year, this cultivation star collapsed, turning into countless broken pieces scattered across the lands. Mists also poured out from the shattered star, spreading all around. On one of the pieces, after a giant snake died, a white light rose into the sky, heading straight towards the star domain. Wang Lin's expression changed, and he locked onto that white light at full speed, pursuing it again. He had found the traces of the third soul's reincarnation. What he was looking for was who the third soul had reincarnated as in the present, after those endless years. Was it a mortal, a cultivator, perhaps a plant or tree, or maybe still a fierce beast? As he continued his search within the four great star domains, Wang Lin couldn't tell how long had passed. He saw the third soul's reincarnations one after another. In one of them, it reincarnated as a mortal scholar. This scholar seemed like a fool, only knowing how to read, and eventually gained fame, spending his life in a bridal chamber until he died old. At the moment of his death, white light emanated from his aging forehead, entering the next reincarnation. Some were male, some female. In one reincarnation, the third soul became a towering tree, growing from a sapling to wither over 1,000 years, eventually dying. In another, it reincarnated as a cultivator. This cultivator was not very powerful, only reaching the core formation stage, and died when his lifespan ended. Time passed, until one reincarnation saw the third soul choosing a cultivation star in Kungsu Star Domain, a place Wang Lin was familiar with. He was shocked to discover that it was Vermilion Bird Star. At the moment he saw it, Wang Lin's heart trembled. He didn't know if this was the end, but the instant he saw Vermilion Bird Star, he vaguely seemed to guess something. On Vermilion Bird Star, the third soul reincarnated as a mortal. This mortal never practiced cultivation, but his life was incredibly brilliant. He became a great scholar of Zhao Kingdom. His name was Su Dao. In this instance, Wang Lin did not see himself, but his heart shook with waves of shock. He didn't know why he existed in the dream Dao, and he couldn't understand why in the dream Dao, Su Dao would take him as a disciple. Ancient, there existed a karmic bond of reincarnation between him and Su Dao, but Wang Lin could not find the cause. He only saw the result. His karmic bond had already been fulfilled, but upon seeing the third soul reincarnate into Su Dao, he became lost. In his confusion, he saw Su Dao, who loved the willow catkin, die with a smile. After his death, the white light of the third soul rose and once again changed direction in the starry sky. This time, it was heading to Luotian Star Domain. Wang Lin's heart trembled. From a time perspective, the final reincarnation was now increasingly close. Following the third soul within the Luotian Star Domain, Wang Lin saw the soul enter a cultivation star deep in the Luotian region, reincarnating as a fish in a river. This cultivation star was called Qingling Star. The fish grew from a fry in the water, playing and swimming as if its whole life was spent in such leisurely motion until death. But what caught Wang Lin's attention was that this death was unlike the others. The third soul did not leave the cultivation star, but reincarnated as another fish in the same river. Again and again, it chose the same river for reincarnation, as if waiting for something. This strange occurrence made Wang Lin, looking at this familiar cultivation star, have a vague guess in his heart. After hundreds of reincarnations, Wang Lin watched the third soul go through this same river hundreds of times. In the final reincarnation, he saw a fisherman on the riverbank. The third soul, reincarnated as a fish, bit the hook and was pulled out by the fisherman's laughter. It seemed that after hundreds of reincarnations, it had been waiting for this fisherman, waiting for this fish bait. My wife is in labor. Today, I'll catch just this one fish and go home. He raised the fish in his hand and glanced at it. The sunlight reflected off its belly, casting a flicker of white light. At a glance, it seemed extraordinary. The man smiled slightly, placed the fish into a clay jar filled with water, and, holding the jar, strode forward. Wang Lin watched this scene. The answer to his inner speculation lingered in his mind, causing a momentary blur in his vision. In silence, he followed the man. After walking for about the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, they reached a simple house beside a bamboo forest along the riverbank. The house was surrounded by a bamboo fence, and some poultry were clucking around, eager to grab food from a plump woman. The woman wore plain clothes, but her beauty was undeniable. At that moment, she held a winnowing basket, smiling as she scattered the mixed food outside. Occasionally tired, she would hold the winnowing basket in one hand and press her other hand on her waist, a slight sheen of sweat on her forehead. She looked up, gazing toward the door as if waiting for her husband to return. It was already afternoon, and the sunlight was not blinding. After a while, with the sound of footsteps approaching through the bamboo forest, the woman's smile grew warmer. Xun'er, I caught a fish for you. The footsteps stopped outside the door. With a creak, the bamboo door was pushed open, and the man entered, holding the clay jar and smiling. It's just that I suddenly craved fish. It'll pass soon, but you. The woman's eyes softened with tenderness. The man laughed heartily and walked up to support his wife, entering the room together. After a while, the smoke from the cooking stove curled upwards, rising high. From a distance, the smoke looked like a painting, adding a rustic charm. Wang Lin's figure floated in the bamboo forest, watching everything in silence. He vaguely understood that this time, it was probably the third soul, the most recent reincarnation. 3 days later, in the dead of night, the sky and earth changed color. The winds and clouds rolled, and thunder crashed through the skies. Torrential rain poured down, hitting the bamboo, hitting the house, making a cracking sound. The heavens seemed to merge with the earth in this rainstorm. As lightning flashed across the sky, everything in the bamboo forest below was illuminated in an instant. Inside the house, the woman with a large belly lay in bed, groaning in pain. She gripped the blanket tightly with both hands, while a midwife stood beside her. Outside the room, the man stood calmly, watching the rain on the moonlit night. But the tightness of his clenched fists betrayed his inner anxiety. Time passed slowly, and the woman's cries grew weaker, drifting into the man's ears, causing his heart to ache. But his expression remained unchanged. Only his eyes gleamed with intensity as he looked up at the dark sky, where the heavy rain poured. I, Xie Dongming, have been studying since childhood, understanding the way of the world and all things. As an official, I benefited the people, and after retiring, I never held grudges with anyone. In these 33 years of life, I've never done anything that would shame my conscience. Heaven, now that my son is about to be born, why must you make it difficult for my wife? The man slammed his right hand against the bamboo wall. Blood dripped from his fingers and fell to the ground, turning into wisps that the rain diluted. At the very moment the blood merged with the water, the sky rumbled with thunder, and in the midst of the rumbling, the cry of a newborn baby suddenly came from the room. The man's body trembled, and his calm expression was immediately replaced with excitement. He turned abruptly as the door to the room opened. The midwife, drenched in sweat but smiling warmly, came out holding the baby. Congratulations, young Master Xie. Both mother and child are safe. The man, still trembling with excitement, glanced at the child before quickly rushing into the room. However, his focus was not on the baby. He was more concerned about his wife. There, on the bed, the woman appeared pale, weak, but smiling at her husband. "It's a boy," she whispered softly. "Xun'er, you rest more. I've already thought of a name. If it's a boy, he'll be called Xie. I hope he grows up to be like a bamboo, tall and upright, extraordinary and refined, becoming a great scholar." The man laughed heartily. In his laughter, the baby held by the midwife seemed to stop crying and instead opened its eyes, faintly glowing with a mysterious light. The warmth in the room, the thunderstorm outside, and the man's laughter intertwined, reaching Wang Lin's mind, floating outside the house. Wang Lin's body suddenly shook, and his brain seemed to absorb the thunder from the entire world, causing his body to tremble and stagger back several steps. He stared blankly at the flickering firelight in the house, his eyes filled with disbelief. Although he had vaguely speculated earlier, the confirmation of his guess still shocked him like a storm. At that instant, Wang Lin could no longer hear the thunder nor the laughter from inside the house. His vision blurred, and in his ears, only one voice echoed throughout the world. "Xie, Xie, Xie. The third soul is Xie." Wang Lin opened his mouth as if to say something, but he realized he didn't know how to begin. His mind was in chaos, churning like a stormy sea. Before pursuing this third soul, he had speculated about its identity, considering that it might be a mortal, a cultivator, or perhaps a fierce beast or vegetation. Yet, he never imagined that the third soul would turn out to be Xie. It was actually his own disciple. Wang Lin's face turned pale, and he staggered backward. He was the first to learn the identity of the third soul, but this revelation forced him into a difficult choice: to kill or not to kill. The heavens roared, the thunder grew even fiercer, and as lightning struck, the rain poured down with a madness of its own. The wind whipped up the raindrops like a dancing river in the sky. Wang Lin would never forget that many years ago, on this azure spirit star, he had been lost while seeking the Tao, asking the great scholar of this land what the Tao truly was. He had asked everyone he could, and ultimately encountered Xie. This person brought him clarity and breakthrough at that time. He also couldn't forget how, on the peaks of this azure spirit star, he sat cross-legged in meditation while old as he was. Xie still climbed up with great perseverance, kneeling before him, wholeheartedly seeking the Tao. In my life, I have prided myself on understanding the principles of heaven, earth, and human relationships, and seeing it as my duty to enlighten the world. Yet now, at an age to know my destiny, I suddenly realized that I am nothing but a fish in water. These words were the first spoken by Xie when he was seeking the Tao and climbing that mountain. Wang Lin had only understood the initial phrases at the time, but the final line hadn't been deeply pondered. Back then, he hadn't thought to contemplate that last line deeply, nor would he have found any answers if he had. It would have simply become commonplace. But now, as he pursued the third soul through endless reincarnations, especially within the river of this azure spirit star, seeing the third soul cycle hundreds of times as a fish, and realizing that this third soul was Xie, Wang Lin's heart resounded. He couldn't help but recall that phrase. So it turns out, I am indeed a fish in water. Wang Lin suddenly looked up at the warmly lit house, his expression bittersweet, as Xie words echoed in his mind. He understood now why, within the dream Tao, he encountered Su Dao, who guided him to become a great scholar in Zhao Kingdom and even on Vermilion Bird Star. All of this was karmic. After Wang Lin believed he had accomplished the great circle of karma, he still found that karma was right there, visible yet untouchable. Years ago, I unwittingly enlightened Xie and took him as my disciple. He is the third soul of the rainbow, immortal venerable. Through this matter, we are bound by karma. This is the cause. Because of this, Su Dao appeared in my dream Tao. In reality, he is my disciple, while within the dream Tao, I am his disciple. This karmic cycle must be a reincarnation. I should have thought it through long ago. Wang Lin staggered back a step. As his foot touched down, the heavens rumbled, and the sky shattered into fragments, crumbling. The earth heaved in waves as if a dragon was rolling underground, obliterating everything, including bamboo groves, vanishing them into dust. The rain vaporized, the thunder ceased, and in the midst of it all, only the warm, happy house remained, glowing softly. Wang Lin took a second step back. The moment his foot hit the ground, the house before him twisted, creating endless afterimages that wavered, blurring the line between moving house and moving body, and slowly faded away until it was completely consumed by nothingness. Wang Lin's figure also faded. When he became clear again, he found himself in the first layer of illusory realm within Xun'er. Xun'er opened her eyes, looking at Wang Lin, and sighed softly. The bitterness on her face remained, as Wang Lin murmured words only he could hear. As he stepped back to the third step, the past of this illusory realm's Xun'er kingdom crumbled, a realm stained red with blood, crashing down with a thundering sound. In this collapse, the palace shattered, as did the earth and sky. All the brown bloodstains on the ground turned to dust, swirling up to form a huge vortex high above. This vortex spun faster and faster, instantaneously transforming into a colossal ghostly face, its ghastly features roaring silently, ready to consume Wang Lin and Xun'er. In an instant, it engulfed both of them, dissipating them into the void. Everything disintegrated with time. The illusion collapsed. In the cave mansion realm, in the immortal realm, atop the mountain peak, Wang Lin and Xun'er opened their eyes simultaneously. Everything that had just transpired felt like a dream, so real it was indistinguishable from reality. Wang Lin's face was pale as he gazed at the sky, his eyes filled with struggle. The third soul is him. Yet, in times of complicated emotions, even the lightest breeze could not bring clarity. Xun'er stood up and glanced back at Wang Lin. After a brief silence, he said nothing but sighed softly before walking away. He naturally understood the identity of the third soul, and he was also aware of the relationship between Wang Lin and the third soul's current reincarnation. He knew the struggle Wang Lin was facing. Even after Xun'er left, Wang Lin remained seated atop the mountain, gazing at the sky of the immortal realm. The turmoil in his expression had not faded. If the third soul had no connection to Wang Lin, he would have acted without hesitation, whether to strike, seal, or destroy, anything to prevent the soul's fate of being absorbed after the three souls merged. But now, the third soul turned out to be Xie, Wang Lin's disciple. The thought of killing his own disciple with his own hands caused Wang Lin's heart to ache. After a long time, Wang Lin let out a deep sigh. As night fell, he withdrew his gaze from the sky. He still couldn't decide what to do, but deep inside, a faint answer was already forming. However, aside from the identity of the third soul, two other issues troubled Wang Lin, making him feel that the truth, which should have been clear, had become blurred. Tian Yunzi is part of the Tao of Heaven. During my battle with him, I entered his reincarnation and saw that before the beginning of time, he devoured the seventh soul fragment of the seven-colored Immortal Venerable. But when the seven-colored Immortal Venerable collapsed and the three souls and seven souls were just about to separate, I saw that seventh soul fragment. Wang Lin closed his eyes, hiding the glint of contemplation in his pupils. I saw the seventh soul enter reincarnation and dissipate. Perhaps this seventh soul did indeed reincarnate, just like the third soul reincarnated multiple times. During one of its deaths, as it sought another place for reincarnation, it was devoured by Tian Yunzi, who had been split from the Tao of Heaven. This seventh soul was violet, representing the fury and madness of the seven-colored Immortal Venerable. It was devoured by Tian Yunzi. It should have fused into one, but after swallowing Tian Yunzi, I sensed something strange in the netherworld beast's body. There was no trace of the seventh soul of the seven-colored Immortal Venerable. Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze cold and sharp. If my feeling is wrong, it's one thing. But if I'm right, and there's no seventh soul in the Tao of Heaven, then where is it? Who does it belong to? Wang Lin furrowed his brow. Earlier, when the Tao of Heaven couldn't devour the four great generals and war ghost, I suspected the Tao of Heaven was still incomplete. If my guess is correct, this would prove that the Tao of Heaven is indeed not whole. It's missing. Perhaps that missing part is the seventh soul. Could it be that Tian Yunzi's other form is still alive? Wang Lin's eyes suddenly contracted. I almost forgot about that gray-robed Tian Yunzi. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Perhaps it's not him. On that mountain peak, Wang Lin remained silent for a long time. The first problem troubled him without any answers. But compared to this, the second issue, which was far more perplexing, clouded Wang Lin's thoughts. I already know 6 of the 7 souls: Qing Shui, Situ, Greedy Wolf, Qing Lin, Mu Bingmei, and Spirit Dispersion Sage. Among them, Qing Shui and Situ are the souls of the 7 colored souls. I wasn't surprised, because their fate souls didn't appear in the heavenly tribulation reincarnation. But the fate souls of the other 4 did appear in the heavenly tribulation reincarnation. This was supposed to be my way of judging the 7 colored souls, but now it seems contradictory. Wang Lin rubbed his forehead, unable to make sense of it. If the fate souls exist in the heavenly tribulation reincarnation, that means they are beings from this cave mansion realm. Since that's the case, how could these 4 become the 7 colored souls? Something is wrong here. Wang Lin lifted his head and looked at the night sky of the immortal realm, a thoughtful expression in his eyes. His right hand reached up and touched his forehead, as though pointing to the netherworld beast, which had turned into a mustard seed inside his body. I can't figure it out, but I have this vague feeling that this is crucial, perhaps even the key to resolving the fusion of the 7 colored 3 souls. Wang Lin's eyes slowly filled with bloodshot veins. It was as if he had reached an impasse, unable to understand, unable to move forward. Not far behind Wang Lin, Grand Heavenly Venerable Xian Luo opened his eyes. He had been observing Wang Lin this entire time, whether during the dream return to Vermilion Bird or just now, when Wang Lin sought the 3rd soul. He had seen it all. He's trapped in a cycle of thoughts, unable to figure things out for now. Actually, this is quite simple. Xian Luo raised his right hand and suddenly pointed at Wang Lin. At the moment of this gesture, Wang Lin's body trembled. He hadn't sensed Xian Luo's presence, but in that instant, his mind seemed to explode with a thunderous crash, as if a bolt of lightning tore through his thoughts and sent him spiraling into a strange idea. Variables. These are variables. Wang Lin took a deep breath, his eyes shining with brilliance. In that moment, his mind became clearer than ever before, as if everything in the world could not escape the workings of his thoughts. Whether it's Qing Lin, Greedy Wolf, or even Mu Bingmei, Spirit Dispersion Sage, the 4 of them, perhaps at the very beginning, In that heavenly tribulation reincarnation, just like Situ and Qing Shui, did not have the fate soul within them. But through repeated cycles of reincarnation, due to a strange change, the four became true individuals, completely different from the rainbow, immortal venerable. Their origins may have once been the seven colors, but now, under this strange change, they have truly become beings of the cave mansion realm. Repeated reincarnations, repeated changes, repeated fusions, until now, they have completely separated from the rainbow, immortal venerable. They were once the seven colors soul, but now they are not. This is the power of creation. This is the force that nears the mysterious Tao of heaven, the core force. These variables, these four, under this change, have led to such a confusing situation for me. Wang Lin murmured. This thought came suddenly, but cleared away his confusion. As for Qing Shui and Situ, they have yet to fully change under these variables and become independent individuals. Perhaps after tens of thousands of years, after a few more cycles of death and reincarnation, they too will, under this Tao of heaven's creation, like a transformation, completely separate from the rainbow, immortal venerable. Wang Lin took a deep breath, and the clarity in his mind made all his thoughts flow like a spring. This power within the Tao of heaven, since it can change the seven souls, should also be able to change the three souls. If I can control this power, I can make the third soul independent. Once the third soul is independent, there will be no more fusion of the three souls. If the three souls cannot fuse, everything will be easily solved. But what exactly is this power? Even though Wang Lin's mind was clear, he still couldn't imagine the mysterious core of the Tao of heaven. His Tao of heaven was still incomplete, or rather, he still did not fully understand the Tao of heaven he controlled, why it appeared and how it could give birth to all life and evolve the laws and rules. As the clarity in his mind gradually faded with the onset of night, a white edge began to form along the horizon. Not far behind Wang Lin, Xian Luo let out a soft sigh. The Tao of heaven, the mysteries of this thing, not to mention him, even I have many places that I cannot comprehend. Only when I had the chance to become the grand heavenly venerable back, then did I understand a little. But to fully see through it, unless my cultivation can progress further. Xian Luo's eyes glowed with a strange light. 9 suns have been searching for a way to progress further, but so far, no one has succeeded. They can only think about it every time they are forced to reincarnate. The Tao of heaven, this thing originally came from the ancient divine realm. The mysteries of that realm, no one knows when someone will fully understand. Sighing, Xian Luo raised his right hand, his gaze landing on his index finger, where a black circular mark resembled a black hole, slowly rotating and exuding an aura of the Tao of heaven. Morning arrived, and the light dispelled the dark night. As the first ray of sunlight spread from the distant sky, Wang Lin stopped his thoughts. He took a deep breath, stood up, and as he looked up, a complex expression filled his eyes. Taking a step, his figure, like a river, shot toward the sky in a flash, as if competing with the rising sun. In that instant, his figure seemed to shine alongside the first light of day, and in the blink of an eye, he broke through the sky, out of the Milky Way formation, and into the starry sky, heading toward Luotian. Amid the ripples, Wang Lin's figure merged into the void and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already standing in the starry sky of Luotian's star domain, beyond the immortal realm. A step, and the world changed. After appearing, Wang Lin did not release his divine sense. Instead, he closed his eyes. Xie was his disciple, and there was a karmic bond between them. With this connection, he did not need his divine sense to feel Xie presence. After a long while, Wang Lin opened his eyes and turned to look eastward. A deeper complexity filled his eyes. He felt it. Xie was deep in the eastern part of Luotian, within a cultivation star. It seemed he was waiting for Wang Lin. Are you really waiting for me? Wang Lin sighed softly and walked eastward. His figure slowly merged into the void and disappeared without a trace. At this moment, in the Luotian star domain, the 4 great generals roared forward. In front of them, the massive mist beast swayed its head, constantly searching. Its eyes glowed with a bright, eerie light, as if it had found a clue. War Ghost followed behind the 4 great generals, his eyes gleaming intensely. The information revealed by the mist beast's expression, he understood. Meanwhile, in this Luotian star domain, where it connects to Zhao River, the rainbow Taoist stepped forward, searching all over Zhao River without any clues. He now began to search meticulously in Luotian.